Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Wildcat Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today's episode is gonna be a special one. I promise you that, right? Because we have someone special. Yeah, like I know everyone is special, but today is a bit more special. He is a 12-year veteran of US Army Special Operations. In addition to having a Master of Business Administration, increased musical U revenue over 600% in the last 2 years and got the 2 Common Club Award from ClickFunnels. Who is the founder and director of Smooth Operations? Who is Adam Liette? And we will learn so many things about online business and business growth after the intro. Entrepreneurship is a wild journey with lots of ups and downs. After 2 years of my own entrepreneurial journey and doing so many things for my business and business growth, none of them brought me the result I was hoping. So I decided to stop everything what I was doing and started building everything from scratch for a solid foundation. And started learning how the experts have done it themselves. Follow me on this wild journey with other wildcat entrepreneurs as I learn from the experts and I'm gonna build my first $1 million business. I'm your host Tanvir Rahman and you are watching season 1 of Wildcat Entrepreneurs Podcast. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Wildcat Entrepreneurs Podcast. As you can see, I do have Adam with me and he will be sharing so much value about like how do you run your business, like smooth operation, like not like it's running and it's slow and it's not never gonna happen with Adam. So yeah, let me introduce Adam with you. Hi Adam, how are you? How's your day?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure, and
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to getting to meet and
Mm.
interact with your audience.
Yeah, thank you for being here because I never thought that someone like you will be on my podcast. But yeah, like I'm so glad that you are here, Adam. So yeah, I'm really thankful to be here.
Absolutely, it's my
So
pleasure.
yeah, all right. So let's get into the point, all right? So I don't wanna like do crazy things, but we are talking on the backstage and everything was going smoothly. But you mentioned that you were in the US Army for 12 years. So like can you share a little bit about the story? Because we think that the army means like you're going all in for like different like mission and everything like the movies, but how was the experience and can you share a little bit about that?
For sure. Yeah, I was active duty for just over 12 years. I'm actually still in. I'm a reservist now,
Wow.
so I go 1 weekend a month to my reserve center and still serve. But coming up on that magical when we hit 20 years in the US Army, we can retire. So
Mhm.
I'm barely counting down. I'm looking forward to retiring. But the bulk majority of my active duty career, especially, was I was a special operator. So I jumped out of airplanes, jumped out of helicopters,
That's great.
learned foreign languages, went all around the world. And my main thing, what I did was not the stuff you see in the movies. It wasn't the running gun, shooting, blowing stuff up. Instead, I worked on what we call influence operations, information operations, where we were using information
Mhm.
in order to change behaviors, like really discourage things that we know are really bad for the world. I mean, we can all kind of think of some things that have had some negative impacts on the world,
Yeah, exactly.
but we were using information only to do that. And I
Mhm.
spent most of my time in Southeast Asia and South Asia, just kind of circled all those countries in there, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I worked mostly on small teams,
Mhm.
but my job required me to really develop my communication skills, really learn how to talk to people,
Mhm.
how to negotiate, how to manage things, because I was working a lot in the US embassies and a lot with our counterparts. So I'd go into countries and work with their governments and work with their militaries. And it's not as simple as what you think about with traditional military leadership, where you just give an order and people follow it. That doesn't
Mhm.
happen in that environment. It's always a give and take. It's about relationships and really, well, everyone becoming the best of themselves. And so
Mhm.
it was a lot of fun. Completely enjoyed it, and it led me to where I am here today.
Yeah, well, like, do you miss those old days, like where you're on the mission, like doing crazy things, or you do love this online business and what are you doing right now?
Oh, this is great. Yeah, I love this very much more. Yeah. I I'm super glad I did that as part of my life. If I
Mhm.
had to, that whole like redo your life, I'd 100% do it again.
Mhm.
But now I get the chance to interact with a whole lot more people. I get to have
Mhm.
a different kind of impact on the world, and I'm home. That's really nice to be home every night.
Yeah, that's something that you cannot be on when you're in the army. But anyways, so how did you become an online entrepreneur? Like what was going through your mind after you just came back from the army and how was the
Yeah.
transition period?
Actually, the transition started about 18 months before I left the army.
Oh wow.
I was doing a routine parachute jump. We jump almost every month,
Hmm.
and everything went fine. I exited the plane fine. I was going, my descent was fine. And then I hit the ground and I felt something pop. And it turns out I had broken my right ankle in 3 places.
Wow.
Ended up going through a couple of surgeries and was found myself lying on my back, my foot propped up, recovering for some amount of time. The most amazing thing came out of that experience. I sat there sitting. I mean, what can you do when you're lying in bed
Yeah,
for
nothing.
weeks at a time? You can only watch so many movies, right? Gets a little boring.
Yeah.
So I started listening to podcasts. I started watching YouTube videos, and I found this wonderful gentleman named Russell Brunson,
Yeah.
who had just came out with .com Secrets book. I picked up the book, had it ordered. I read it
Yeah.
in a day. The next day, I read it again,
Wow.
and I couldn't stop with this idea of, oh my gosh, there's this whole other world waiting for me. So I couldn't wait to get into it.
Hmm.
So I found out about Upwork, and I built myself out. I started to build a portfolio out, super undercutting my charge. Like I was charging like $10 an hour to do Facebook ads and content
Hmm.
management. But what was I trying to do? Gain my experience and build a portfolio. I didn't have to make a living because I was still full-time army. I was just
Hmm.
coming home every night and doing this freelancer work. That way, I built my portfolio. I was able
Hmm.
to then get a full-time job
Wow.
as an operations manager for one of the world's largest music education websites. And that was really where things took off.
That's
That
crazy.
happened just as I was transitioning. So I went from full-time army to full-time online working like that. It happened overnight.
Like it happened like Thanos snap, right? Like it
Yes,
just happened smoothly. But
I was a success story that was 18 it was an 18-month overnight success. Yeah.
wow, like that's crazy because like when I started, like I had my biggest success from like Upwork as well. Like so we do have some similarity, but maybe I just have to go a little bit further to be on the stage and to grab the 2 comma club. But yeah, like I'm gonna come back about the topic
Yeah.
as well. So
Well,
so
the
you
funny
know.
thing happens if anyone in your audience is out there on Upwork right now,
Hmm.
um, the people that are hiring you to do gigs, if you do well and you express interest in continuing to work for them,
Hmm.
I started at that music company as a part-time guy. I was
Hmm.
part-time, like 5 to 10 hours a week for almost a year. And so
Yeah,
I was
wow.
able to build my clout, build my standing in the company, which then led to the full-time job. So, but it started from Upwork, from that
Hmm.
very part-time opportunity.
Yeah, like
Because
that.
most CEOs don't like to hire. They don't like to
Yeah,
go to
like
look for new people. They
yeah,
like their
like they
existing
don't.
people to step up and show their skills.
Mhm. Yeah, like that's for sure. But uh the number of reason that I gave up on like Upwork is like they charge too much money. They charge like 20%, like till you get like $500, and now like they charge 10%. But that's crazy, like that's really crazy compared to like PayPal or some other uh like financial exchange.
Yeah.
But that was crazy, and it was heartbroken for me. Like, hey, why are you taking my money? But yeah, like that's crazy.
Well, for anyone that's hiring out there, like if you're hiring people from Upwork, like you have to bake that into the cake, so
Hmm.
to speak, because Upwork's going to take 20, then 10%. It's
Yeah.
20% for the first $500, then it goes down to 10%. So with that in mind, like you got to pay your people a couple more dollars to
Hmm.
make up for that. Or otherwise, if you're saying I don't get quality people off Upwork, well, let me tell you why you're not paying enough. You need to pay, and it's not much, maybe $3 to $5 more an hour
Hmm.
makes up that difference. And someone, like you said, that. So you're like one of the smart guys. I look for smart guys when I hire who know those little inner things.
Hmm.
Like that's an indicator for me that you're someone who pays attention to the details. You know who
Yeah.
I want to hire? People that pay attention to the details, because
Mhm.
that's the person that has more potential than the job I'm hiring for.
Yeah, exactly. So just like speaking of your team, like do you like hire people from Upwork, or how do you hire people for your team? Like why do you go first, like to hire
Yeah.
people?
Well, with the company I just left, so I was with that company, that music company, for
Mm-hmm.
almost 5 years.
Wow,
Ended up growing the company from 4 to 20, and just the revenue went crazy.
crazy. Yeah.
So that's how we got the Two Comma Club. How did we hire? We did a number of things. The first
Mm-hmm.
thing we did when hiring was actually we went to our email list. We had a
Mm-hmm.
huge database. So we would send out first a job spec to our email list, especially our customers, people that actually bought things from us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the secondary was always Upwork, just because then this is going to get like super wonky from the business
Mm-hmm.
management side. When you hire someone from Upwork versus someone's a full-time, well, you got two different like payroll systems, so it gets a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
like you got to balance that out.
Mm-hmm.
But that can be done, and that's something that you just have to account for in the financials. But we tend to do both. A lot of our email lists, a lot on Upwork, and then there's just like the more gig stuff that we just need
Mm-hmm.
like a one-time thing done. It was way easier on Fiverr just to find someone, see their portfolio, and just hire them.
Yeah, like Fiverr is also crazy, but that is that's a different story because I was never able to get anything from Fiverr, but like Upwork was really good for me. All right. So like it
Well,
was, yeah, go for
when
it.
you were doing Fiverr, because I'm sure some of your listeners probably in that same boat,
Mm-hmm.
how were you pricing? Were you pricing like lowest, middle of the pack, or upper area?
Like I was doing the middle of because that back then like I never knew like what's going on in the industry, like how they charge
Yeah.
and everything. Like and people are saying like, hey, look, like make the average or like what the people are charging most and what is the lowest and be on the middle ground. Like that's what we have known forever, like that's what I was
That
doing. And
means no
maybe
one saw you.
yeah, maybe that's the reason like I was not hired from Fiverr. But
When I hire from Upwork, from Fiverr, I do one of two things. If it's just a real simple thing, I'm literally just trying to I just need it done, and I know it's a 10-minute task,
mhm.
then I'll do the lowest cost.
All
When it's
right.
for something that I want some tremendous value from, and
Mhm.
I know it's worth three, five, 800, $1,500. Like if I'm asking someone to do something in my website, actually building something, I don't want to
Mhm.
hire the cheap person. So I'm going to immediately flip it to highest priced. That's how I'm going to be serving people in there. But when you're middle of the road, you don't get seen by either of those.
That's a golden nugget for everyone who is listening
Yes.
or watching, because like this is something that never came to my mind. Like when I started, like I was being on the middleman, and some people
Yeah.
like knocked me from Upwork, and that's it. And the thing was really competitive, but that's how I
Yeah.
I had to go through. But yeah, there's something new also I have learned. So yeah, like
For
thanks
sure.
for sharing, and I'm gonna learn more from you in the journey. And speaking of learning, like you mentioned that you have learning from Russell and the book .com Secret, and what like other books that you have read, like because I have read the book from like military, which is called like Extreme Ownership. So have you read the
Mm-hmm.
book, and
Yes.
how was the experience?
Extreme Ownership's a great book. Yeah.
Mhm.
Did you want me to talk about that book
Yeah,
or
just
what books in general?
tell a little bit about your thoughts about that book, because that book really taught me something really different about the belief system and some other things that I was dealing with my life, and that
Mm-hmm.
thing really changed like what I was thinking on everything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Extreme Ownership, it's written by a Navy SEAL. So it's
Mhm.
more the SEAL leadership style, which I was not a
Yeah.
SEAL, but I definitely interacted a lot with them. I'd say military leadership in general, and especially special operations.
Hmm.
It's it's about, I mean, it is about traditional military is more of like community and like
Hmm.
you're part of this big thing,
All right.
whereas in special ops you're expected to be an individual, you're expected to make decisions on your own, you're expected to own those decisions and
Hmm.
follow through. So for me, what I took the most out of not only reading but like the experience was
Hmm.
I had to always be thinking of the end in mind, because I
All
couldn't
right.
just come up with an idea and expect someone else to run with it.
Hmm.
Like I had to know what the end state was, and then I typically will try to think of that first, and then work backwards to where I should start. But I always think of like, what's my desired objective? What's my desired outcome? And
Hmm.
when you do that, and then you start planning your process, I mean, that's how you really have ownership, because you've planned the whole process out from a desired outcome. So really for any kind of project that you're working on, any kind of venture that you're going on, you start with the end in mind, beginning
Hmm.
with the end in mind. I think that's from Stephen Covey's book,
Right.
Seven Habits of Successful People. I did totally butchered that name, that title, but that's a lesson from him as well. Like,
Hmm.
start with your desired end state.
No, like this. It's like what are some of the books that you have read, like, and you recommend to other entrepreneurs that are starting their journey and they want to learn?
Yeah. Yeah. The first thing I recommend is you have to establish your foundation.
Hmm.
And I believe in daily foundational work, stuff to just firm ourselves up. So for me, I read a passage from the Daily Stoic every day, which
All
is
right.
it's Stoicism. So like Marcus Aurelius and those kind of thinkers from thousands of years ago.
Oh.
And then I always do some kind of religious reading.
Hmm.
And whatever your faith is, it doesn't matter. Like grounding yourself in the bigger picture
Hmm.
and the fact that there is this power, whether it didn't, like I said, doesn't matter which faith you believe in. Rooting yourself in that at the beginning of every day, like, dude,
Yeah,
that's
like
like money. That
yeah,
will
that
set you
that really
apart.
helps.
Yeah.
That.
There's this other great little book, and it's not like it's these really short chapters, they're like a page or two long
Hmm.
at the
Hmm.
most, but it's called The War of Art by Stephen Presley.
All right.
The War of Art is all about making the transition from amateur to professional.
Hmm.
And so what Stephen Presley talks about is the amateur says, I need to be inspired to do our work. Because a lot of us do really creative work, right? Like I do my podcasts, I
Hmm.
do online courses, I have to write blogs, I have to write ads, like all these things I have to write, which is creative work.
Yep,
Stephen says,
exactly.
well, you have to do the work. You have to fight what he calls the resistance. The resistance is that little voice in the back of our head that's saying, you're just not in the mood. Maybe if you go for a walk first, or
Hmm.
oh, I need to take a nap before I do this work. And Stephen would say, no, man, sit down, do the work, have a process, and nug it out. Get it done. That's what pros do.
Yeah.
Which I read from that book every day, and I only read from it like for 2 minutes. That's
Hmm.
it. But you get that little nugget of that little kick in the butt to be a pro, work through it, and get going.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also a huge fan of pretty much anything by John Maxwell in terms of leadership and knowing how
Hmm.
to really be a leader and inspire and influence people. I don't think there's a better author out there. I also read a lot of fiction. I try to read some fiction at all times. There's something beautiful about story.
Hmm.
And amazingly enough, I learned more about copywriting from reading fiction than I
Wow.
learned from any copy course. You know why? Because what does a fiction writer want you to do? They want you to keep on reading. They want
Yeah,
you to bring
exactly.
out the really pungent points. And
Hmm.
there's a couple of books that are really good at doing that. You start to see the structure on the page. You're like, I can't put this book down. Oh my goodness. No
Yeah.
wonder I can't. Look how he's splitting up the sentences. Look how he's doing this. And there's this flow. Like you can learn a ton about copy and the
Yeah.
art of storytelling by reading fiction. So
Yeah, that's something.
books,
That's
books, books.
something
I
good.
can't stop reading them, and it's definitely a major
Yeah.
part of my life.
Yeah, and speaking of like John Maxwell, like I watched him like 10x growth conference, like he was like 10x
Mhm.
growth con 3. I don't know if you
Yeah,
have been there, like but like he was talking about like 74 books like he have written. Like I said, wow, like this guy is crazy. Like yeah, and he was saying that he wake up in the morning, right? Next day he write like he writes all the time, and 74 books,
yeah.
man. Like that's really crazy. But
And the
uh
average person on earth is like, I haven't read 74 books, but
yeah, like because like I have not read any books like before
Mhm.
reading like Expert Secret from Russell.
That's a
uh
great one.
like yeah, that's really crazy because and from there like I started reading books like at least one book a month, and that's what I'm sticking right now.
Nice.
Like that's because I'm not a big reader, so that's why I just read less, but I just watch courses and go through different
Mhm.
topics and videos. Like that's my thing. Like I go through podcasts. So yeah, like
Yeah,
that's me. But I'm still reading because like reading is something that is much more like in depth, and that's more free. Like the Expert Secret Russell is sharing like it's 10K or something even more. I don't
yeah.
know. So Like
Well, I
that's why.
mean, there's such different learning modalities, and like some people learn better by. I cannot watch video courses. I
Right.
zone out after about 10 minutes, even if I put them at 1.5 speed. Although
Mhm.
there's something super funny about Russell Brunson at 1.5 speed. It's hilarious. Try it. Uh, um, but I'll convert it to audio and then I'll put it
Mhm.
on headphones and I'll
Oh.
like walk around doing stuff around the house and I can do it that way.
Mhm.
But the important thing is, however you learn best, like know yourself.
Yep.
And if someone's saying, hey, you should do this or you should do that, and you're like, yeah, but I really don't like to. But if you don't like to, find a different way to learn it. I mean,
Yeah, well,
it's the most important to be true to yourself.
yeah, like that. That's really crazy. But that other reason, like I started reading, is because I needed to like work on my English because this is not my first language.
Of
So
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that. There's I had to work on. But we'll get back to it. But I just wanted to learn from you, like because throughout the journey, like you had to spend so much money for self development, like going through lots of courses. And so, how much money you've spent, and what are the best investment that you have made on yourself because of learning?
How much? Oh my gosh, how much have I spent?
Yeah.
Dude, we're gonna be here a while. It's a lot. I've spent at least 30 to $40,000 just
That's
investing in myself,
mhm,
at
that
least. And that
yeah,
doesn't
that's
count like actual university.
yeah.
Uh, but I mean, there's such a difference between. Here's what I'll say about investing in yourself.
Mhm,
You got to do it. Like you have to invest in the next level of your
mhm,
growth. And eventually the $27 and $49 courses aren't going to cut it anymore. Like that's where we all start.
yep.
And that's where you should start. You need to get your baseline. You need to start learning. Then
Mhm,
eventually you're going to buy the more expensive courses. And then eventually you're going to get to the only thing I buy now, and I still buy them. I just bought one 3 weeks ago, is I invest in coaching. I
mhm,
am a firm believer in coaching. Coaching has really brought me. I got to that level that I could get with courses and reading and
mhm.
podcasts. It was coaching that pulled me through, and coaching that continues to pull me to the next step every step of the way. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the growth curve we all go on. So,
Yeah, like so
but now I see
yeah.
like the $27 offers. I'm like, I can't buy anymore. I just give up.
Yeah, like that's crazy. But because the reason I like asked you this question, because most of us like we just say like what's the free, like they're giving you like let's go for the free, right? And most of the time the value is not there. So like that's why I just wanted to ask you about how much
Yeah.
money you have spent, right? Because like when you spend, like you're more careful, because I do have like so many courses that I've got from a
Hmm.
friend, and like I'm not watching them. That's who I am right
Exactly.
now. You
Right.
know?
When we don't invest, we don't follow through.
Yeah.
Like there's something that happens within our brain when we
Mhm,
actually have to put down our credit card and invest money. And especially with coaching, you get the second level where you're being held accountable. And if you don't do something, your coach is like, excuse me, you said you were going to do this. And that's why I invest in coaching, because man, I can do some really incredible work 4 hours before a coaching call when I know I got to get it done, or I'm going to be called to the mat on my coaching call. So, but yeah, I mean, as far as the free stuff goes, there's a lot of great stuff out there.
mhm,
My go-to tends to be podcasts. I think there's some wicked amount of information you can get on podcasts, and
mhm.
continue to learn. And it all just builds. We're continuing to feed our minds with the next step of our evolution, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, like I totally agree with you. And also like you just mentioned about like podcasts. So last week like I was listening to your podcast, like Smooth Operation, or like Smooth
Mhm.
Operator, like I'm sorry like if I mispronounced. But
No worries.
like you were talking about like not planning your year, like in the beginning, like you
Yeah.
do plan your year like before, like in the middle of the year. So what was your planning for 2023? Like can you share a little bit about that?
My planning for 2023, the
Yep.
plan or the process?
Yeah, like the process.
Gotcha.
So how you do
So,
that?
like, let me just be clear. I'm in a startup mode right now.
Mm-hmm.
I started my company 4 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way in heck I can do annual planning right now.
All right.
I can't. I can't, because I can't put an accurate projection on where I'm going to be in a year. And there's some coaches out there, some entrepreneurs, they'll say, go for that huge goal. Like, I'm
Mhm.
going to make 10 million next year. That's not realistic, right?
Mhm.
And what they'll tell you, yeah, but by reaching for the stars, no, you're actually training yourself to fail. And you're
Alright.
training self to believe that falling short is okay
Mhm.
when you do that. Long term, that's what you're training your brain to do. So instead, I look at what I call lines of effort.
Mhm.
And this is straight out of military doctrine, how special operations does their planning. But I look at specific things I'm going to be working on,
Alright.
specific things that are going to move myself forward. So one of my strategic lines of effort for that I was just planning a couple of months ago was grow my own podcast. And
Mhm.
what I did, it's not how much am I going to grow it for in a year? How much am I going to grow it in 2 years, 5 years? I didn't put a time on it. I just said,
Alright.
I'm going to grow my podcast. Why does it matter? What am I going to do about it? How are the different ways I can grow my listener base?
Mhm.
And then I sat with it and I let myself think of every potential thing I could possibly do. Didn't matter if it was realistic. Didn't matter if it was feasible in the next year. Didn't matter if it was feasible in 5 years. The point is, we take ourselves out of that time bound constraint that we put ourselves into.
Mhm.
And instead, we only think about the possible. So when you do that, you start thinking bigger. You start thinking broader. You start thinking these huge, wild dreams without the pressure of saying, well, in 1 year, I'm going to do this. You're saying, someday, I'm going to do this.
Alright. That
And that,
sounds that's something is really crazy because like I can understand like so many things from like your business and everything is coming from straight to like the army. So how
Mhm.
the US Army like help you to grow the business that you have been working on, and how it will help you for your own business in future as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, the planning process certainly helps a lot,
Hmm.
because I'm still using a lot of those same structures. I'd say the biggest thing that the Army gave me
Hmm.
was a whole lot of inner strength.
Hmm.
It gave me a confidence level that can be just pushed in whatever direction I decide to push it
All
into.
right. Hmm.
It gave me that strength of mind to be able to know that it doesn't matter how much I think I'm hurting, it doesn't matter how much I don't want to do something, I can do it one more time. That's what I learned when, man, everyone's at doing push-ups. Like, they'd be down there and you can't think, oh man, we're only halfway there. You got to think just one more, just one more, just one more. You'd be amazed at how strong our bodies and our wills and our minds and our souls actually are when you challenge yourself to go just a little bit further, just a little bit longer, just a little bit harder, one step at a time. And so
Yeah.
that's the lesson that keeps on giving, is that I have not yet reached the limits of my capabilities because I don't know what they are yet. I only know how far I've pushed myself so far.
Hmm. Yeah, like that's totally understandable because like I watched like Jesse Itzler, if you know him, like really amazing guy.
Mhm.
He was talking like at 10x stage as well. So I was listening and he was talking about like when you feel like that your mind and your body is about to give up, like make sure that you learn that you are at your 40%. Like that's really an eye opener, but I don't know like how, but like he was saying that. And then like once I tried, like I was doing like straight push-ups. All right, let me see like how many push-ups I can do. And then I did 40. And all right, like
Right.
it's my limit. So like then I just went for 100, but somehow like I was able to do like 100, and that was really crazy. But then like my body like gave up, and that was something else. But yeah, like we can push our limits. Maybe I could have gone even more, like maybe 150 or something. I don't know. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's not overnight for sure, and eventually the body, like with a physical workout, for example, will just go, "Yep, I'm done." But
Yeah.
then
Well,
you get up, brush yourself off, and get ready to drop again and do some more.
yeah, like that. That's totally understandable. But I'm gonna ask you questions about like operating a business. So
Sure.
how do you like prepare a team, and how do you lead a team in the business? And How do you lead your own team in terms of business?
For sure. So, how do you lead a team?
Hmm.
The best way to lead a team is by first realizing that I don't care what you're selling.
Hmm.
We are all in the people business.
Yep.
And we're in the people business first. And if you can treat people like people deserve to be treated,
Hmm.
even when they screw up, because they're going to screw up,
Yeah, they do.
even when they miss deadlines and don't do what they're supposed to do, if you can find a way to still treat them like people, you will have followers,
Hmm.
because it's such a missing thing in our world. And it's unfortunately, especially in the online remote businesses, where we just, oh, it's just get rid of them. I mean,
Hmm.
you'll hear that. Treat people like people. I try to deliberately build structures of support around my people, so they not only have a clear delineation of what they're going to be doing. I
Hmm.
don't leave that to chance. I just don't give them a checklist in an Excel file and expect them to figure it out. I build it out in a project management tool. It's literally like, here's your day, and it's check marks, it's checklists, like in where they can mark off when it's done. I give them a roadmap for success.
Hmm.
I let them know what success looks like. For example, if you're doing sales calls for me, you're going to know how many sales calls I expect per hour, what
Hmm.
the desired conversion rate is, like all these things. Your team needs to know them. And if you are being employed and you don't know them, you should be asking what they are. Like, that's how you bring people to success, by giving them clear instructions, desired outcomes, and then at the end, hold them accountable to those actions. Now, that holding them accountable does not mean the waving the finger in their hand. It's just they know that you're going to be looking.
Hmm.
And if they didn't meet what they were supposed to do, well, then we might have to look at what you're doing. Maybe you need to tweak this. Maybe you need to tweak that. Maybe we need to look at this in another direction. Maybe I had unrealistic expectations, right? It can kind of run the gamut from there, but there's the follow through. It's not just 6 months from now, I'm going, gosh, that person's just not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Well, how the heck were they supposed to know? They didn't know what their desired results were, and they didn't hold them accountable on a regular basis.
Hmm.
The other thing is, when you're hiring people, you need to give them space. And here's what I
All
mean
right.
by that. Information flows in a business in three ways.
Hmm.
Information flows downward, from leadership, from the top all the way to the bottom. It flows
Yeah.
down.
Hmm.
Information also flows side to side between employees. We know they're talking, and that's good. You should be talking to your fellow employees. We love that. We also need a way for information to flow back up. So I need, as an employer, as a leader, I need to give my team members space to bring their concerns, their problems, their successes, the things they like, everything. I need to give them the space to bring that to me. And that means I need to have calls with them
Hmm.
where the subject is not their performance. The subject is my performance. That's a really vulnerable place to put yourself in as a leader, to ask a team member, what do you think of me? How can I better help you? Where am I falling short? You allow for that space, allow for that upward information flow. And when you allow for that company wide, what you get is feedback loops that let you know as the leader that something is nearly wrong before it's wrong. And then I have the opportunity to fix it. I have the opportunity to make something better. I have the opportunity to actually be a dang leader and make my organization the best I can. Long term, you get super motivated employees that love you and feel heard, feel like they are a part of the organization, which they are,
Hmm.
right? And then they work harder for you. They want to improve their own skills. And guess what? They stick around. I don't like getting rid of people. I like retention. Retention is cool. Just
Yep.
like, do you want to find more customers, or you don't want you want your repeat customers to keep coming back? Well, it's easier to get the repeat customers coming back. It's easier to keep your employees, guys. So that's just a simple way of doing it, kind of short circuiting it.
Hmm.
That upward information flow, I'm telling you, it's critical. It's absolutely critical. And it takes so little of our time as leaders to provide that space of 20 to 30 minutes once a month, that's nothing. Most of us spend that time a day on Netflix. I mean,
Yeah.
you can do that as a leader. So that's the biggest thing I can say about
Mhm.
actually leading and building those structures.
Yeah, like that's a golden nugget for sure. Like everyone who is listening or watching. But I'm gonna ask you one last question, all right, about
Sure.
this business and everything. Like, what are some of the softwares or tools that you use, like other than like ClickFunnels?
Oh, of course. So I'm a sucker for Asana. I
Mm-hmm.
love Asana. I think it's got all the functionalities and the customizations
Mm-hmm.
that I ever need. But like, it doesn't have to be that. The important thing is some project management tool. Asana, ClickUp, Monday, doesn't matter. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
you like, whatever's intuitive for you, use it. And then make sure that project management tool is not just for, oh, we got a big like new course we're building. Make sure it's in the project management tool. You have to have everything in there. Like, it needs to run the company.
All right.
So that's my personal favorite. I also love to have Slack.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people stick with WhatsApp. I don't like it because stuff gets like all mixed around and it just becomes messy. So Slack is a must for communication. Zoom, of course, because we
Yeah,
do
like
a lot
video.
more on
Yeah.
video than we. This face-to-face thing really works. Oh gosh, I mean, as far as team management, it doesn't have to be complicated. You can do a whole lot with simple project management tools and Google Docs and spreadsheets. And I can't forget my good buddy Evernote,
Mm-hmm.
because once someone comes into my world, they get their own little file on Evernote where
Yeah.
every interaction, every little thing I learn about them goes in that file, because it's my building Rolodex. And when I hire employees, I I put everything in my employee Rolodex that I learned about that person, because that's part of being a leader.
Yeah. That's it for today, guys. Like I hope that you have learned so many things from Adam, and I'm really sure that I will bring him again to talk about like leadership and building the business. Uh,
For
that's
sure.
gonna be it for today. And yeah, thank you so much, Adam, for sharing all the valuable information. Like I have learned so much about like building the business and leading the team, and I hope the audience, you guys, have done the same thing. All right, so that's it for today's episode, guys. Make sure you stay tuned for next episode for Wildcat Entrepreneurs Podcast. Bye bye.